Hello, I am Yuki Hayashi of FREE THE TONE. Today, I am very happy and excited to be talking to one of the greatest guitar techs in the world, Mr. Rick Wheeler. Although Rick is well known as a top-notch guitar tech, his skills go way beyond that and include road manager, front of house mixer, recording engineer, and jazz guitarist. Based on his vast experience and extensive knowledge, there is no one more qualified to get a band to a gig, set up on stage, and sounding their best. Mr. Rick Wheeler.
Yuki-san, it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming.
You are welcome.
Hello, Rick. First of all, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. I, of course, was born in the United States, and I went to college and studied music. I was playing guitar for many years before I went to college. My mother bought me a guitar when I was 10 years old, and it was a good guitar.
Yeah.
And I still own that guitar. But I studied music in college, and I also studied other things, like sound engineering and guitar care and guitar tech work while I was in college. And then when I graduated from college, I went on to get a teaching certificate, and I became a teacher. After I became a teacher for a while, like around 20 years or so, I was given the opportunity to go on tour with some great artists. And so I thought, I'll give it a try. And I went to start touring with some really fine artists. And I never went back to teaching. And I miss my students, but I really enjoy what I do today, which is a variety of things related to the music business. I'm a very fortunate person.
Okay. Can I ask something?
Sure.
Okay. How did you go from being a school teacher to being a guitar tech?
It was an unusual circumstance. In about the mid-90s, I had moved to Nashville with my wife, who's a very well-known jazz singer, and she was working often in Nashville. So we moved to Nashville, and I got a teaching job in Nashville. And one of the things that my school did was bring in great artists to talk to the students. And one of those artists happened to be Larry Carlton. And so I became friends with Larry, and he knew I was a guitar player and was a guitar teacher. And so he invited me to his house, and we became friends. And one day he asked me if I would like to substitute for his guitar tech, who at the time was Sammy Sanchez, good friend of mine. And I said, sure, but I don't know if I'm a guitar tech. But he said, oh, you'll be fine. I just need someone who can do the basic setup like you do, change my strings and so on. And I said, I can do that. So I started doing that, and Sammy got another gig. And so Larry asked me if I just wanted to be his tech. So I said, sure.
Yeah.
And I was good enough to do it, but I've learned a lot since then. So that was basically how I went from teaching to being a guitar tech.
Who are some of the artists you have worked with?
There's a long list of them, but I'll try my best to remember many of them. Of course, Larry Carlton, Robben Ford, Michael Landau, some great jazz musicians like Omar Hakim and Darryl Jones and Joey DeFrancesco, Steve Lukather, of course. There's a long list of fine musicians, and Brent Mason, of course, is one of those. Paul Franklin, great pedal steel player. Sam Bush is a guy I've been working with lately who's a fine mandolin player. The list is kind of long, but those are a few of my favorites.
Wow. So are you any artist you particularly like working with?
Certainly. Of course, in the last maybe 10 years or so, I've worked extensively with Robben Ford and Larry Carlton and Michael Landau. And I really love working for those guys, not only because they're great musicians, but they're also my friends. And I always tell them they can fire me as their guitar tech. They just can't fire me as their friend. But I learned something from all of them because each of them have special requirements that make their guitar playing better. And so I learn from each of them. And lately, again, Sam Bush has been just a wonderful influence. His music is amazing. That's just a few.
Yeah, just a few. Yeah. So many top artists.
Yes,
I'm
very fortunate. Yes.
Okay. How did you evolve from being a guitar tech to being a road manager and now a live sound mixer?
Great question, because that's not something that would usually happen. You know, most guitar techs sort of stay in that world. But for me, my background was already in engineering. I learned how to be an engineer back in my college years. And I played in many bands, and I would run sound from the stage. I would have a little mixer right there on the stage. Yeah. So I learned a lot about engineering over the years. And so I think it was on a Larry Carlton tour that we needed a sound engineer. And Larry knew that I could do that. And he said, when you're done setting up my guitar, would you consider running sound? And I said, sure, I love to do that. And so I went out and started running sound for him. And then later on, of course, Robben Ford asked me to do the same thing, and Michael Landau asked me to do the same. And so it kept going. It's a reasonable transition because in the guitar tech world, we are very concerned about tone, as you know. And when you're mixing sound, that's the same type of concept. You really want to make sure that the tones are accurate and correct, and that the musicians sound like they really sound. Not how the engineer would want them to sound necessarily, but how they sound. And with world-class musicians, if an engineer can make them sound like they sound, then everything is correct.
Correct.
So I think guitar tech, we are really aware of tone, and it translates into being a front of house engineer also.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand that you are also a recording engineer.
Yes.
Does that background help with your work on the road?
Of course. It's one of these things where, again, if you're aware of tones and how people really sound, then in the studio, you can take more time to use the correct microphone and get the microphones placed in the appropriate places so that they, again, are recorded like they really sound. So it's a very interesting comparison to be a live engineer and a studio engineer. Fortunately for me, with the musicians that I've had a chance to work with, they always hire the world-class engineers. So I've learned very much from the world's greatest engineers like Ed Cherney and George Massenburg and Joe Acapinti and Csaba Petocz. Those guys have taught me. And so I'm very fortunate in that way as well.
I imagine that living in Nashville, you have the opportunity to work with a lot of amazing artists.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Are you currently working with anyone there we might know?
Of course, I'm on tour more than I'm in Nashville, but right now I'm working on a project for a great guitar player from a band called Sea Level, and his name is Jimmy Knowles. Some other guys in that band that you might know are Chuck Leavell, who is now playing with the Rolling Stones, keyboard, great. But Jimmy he has been not so healthy lately, and so we are doing a recording project as a benefit for Jimmy. And there are many great musicians that are coming forth. There are Vince Gill and Joe Bonamassa, and of course Larry Carlton is playing, and Robben Ford is playing, and just many musicians from around the Nashville area are coming to record and being a part of this benefit for him. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
And we're getting toward the end of that project, and I'm looking forward to having that finished and having it be of a benefit to him.
Oh, so, very nice.
Yeah, it's great.
Great. Okay. Working with so many famous guitarists, you must have a lot of experience with guitar effects and pedal boards. Could you talk about your experience and thoughts about the FREE THE TONE product you have used?
Sure. Right away, the very first thing that I want to say about FREE THE TONE products is that it's the sound that is incredible.
Thank you.
They're masterfully designed, and they just are not only sound great, but have a versatility. They can do what the artist needs them to do. And I don't know how an engineer figures that out, but that's one of the most amazing things to me, is that the sound is so wonderful, and that they are able to interface with the artist to get the sounds that they want. And that's amazing to me, just amazing.
Oh, I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are any of the artists you are working with now using FREE THE TONE products?
Well, certainly the guy I work for here right now at this moment in Tokyo, Larry Carlton, has a variety of products that he's using. Basically, all of his cables are FREE THE TONE products. And again, it's the sound. It really it's his sound.
Yeah.
There's nothing that takes his sound away. It's all helping him to be the great artist that he is. So from the moment he plugs in his FREE THE TONE cable into his 335, all the way through the pedals and right into the amplifier with the other end of the FREE THE TONE cables, it's perfect. It's Larry. There's a beautiful pedal board that we'll talk about a little more in a minute, but there are several items on that pedal board that are FREE THE TONE products that are just fantastic too. Also with Robben Ford, we use the cables with Robben as well. And it's speaker cables too. It's not just the shielded guitar cables. The speaker cables are fantastic. I don't know how you do it, but whenever you can have a chance to compare, take a regular high quality speaker cable and then use a FREE THE TONE cable, and you will hear the difference right away. It's amazing. It happens every time. And every person I work with, if they don't have a FREE THE TONE cable, I have a spare in my tech case, and I say, let's try this. And so that's really great too. I think Sam Bushnell, I'm recommending that Sam uses Free the Tone cables also, because he's very much of a tone expert with his mandolin. And he's always playing amplified, because he plays big venues, really big venues. So it's not just the acoustic sound of his mandolin. He needs really good amplification. So in the last couple of shows, I've been recommending that he tries Free the Tone cables. So
thank you.
So that's going to happen as well. But yeah.
Okay.
And of course, I use them personally.
Oh,
so
thanks
and we
so
can
much.
talk more about the ones I use too. So.
Can you tell us about the pedal board that Larry is using now on his tour in Japan?
Sure. It's a very specific need that Larry has with the pedal board. And one thing that I was wanting years ago was to be able to just come to Japan and have a pedal board here, so that we didn't have to travel with it.
Yes.
For a couple of reasons. One, because it can get damaged while you travel so much. And secondly, because if it's already here, it's very easy for us just to come to the show and have the pedal board just be there, which is wonderful. However, there are some very specific requirements that we had to have. And there was really only one person that I could think of that could possibly make this pedal board.
Oh.
So I got together with that person and really just gave all the requirements that we needed. And here's how it works. Larry has a rack of equipment with basically 3 effects. It's reverb, chorus, and delay.
Yes.
So we need something on the pedal board that can turn the chorus on and off, tap the tempo for the delay,
Yes.
and then interface with his guitar and his amplifier. The way his setup works is that we mic his guitar amp, and the signal from the microphone goes into a mixer and also to the front of house. So we get just pure guitar tone at front of house. And the purpose of the mixer is so that we can bus the guitar signal to the effects, the reverb, chorus, and delay. But it gets more complicated because you have to come out of the mixer and go to 2 stereo speakers on each side of his amplifier. So the heart of that operation is the pedal board, because it coordinates all of the effects as well as volume and the wah-wah.
Yeah.
So my requirements were that it has a 9-volt distribution system, and the Free the Tone 9-volt box is incredible. It's just great. It always works flawlessly, and it's just something that I can rely on. I never have to think about it. And then in addition to that, we need an input section, an I/O section, if you will. Something where we go into the pedal board, and then we can go out of the pedal board, to his amplifier, and then also with the chorus and delay triggers. So all of that is contained in the I/O box. And when you add Free the Tone cables to all of this, then the sound is perfect. And then all that was left was the layout, the architecture of the pedal board. And we worked together to make that as easy as it could be for Larry, because he has his volume pedal, his wah-wah pedal, chorus and delay. And then you masterfully created a block where he could put his channel switching for his amplifier and get that up above. So it was easy for him to use his foot for that. All very compact, but easy to work with. Every plug can be removed. Any piece of equipment can be removed. It's just masterful, and it's a free the tone design, and no less than amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you too.
And Larry thanks you.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. I understand you will be going to Korea after you leave Japan, and
Yes.
Will be using separate pedals for radio
Yes.
instead of pedal board, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Could you talk about your plans for that setup?
Sure. Well, because Larry really needs to have reverb, chorus, and delay, we're already using an amplifier that has reverb. So I'm not so worried about that. But I wanted the best chorus and best delay that I could find. And fortunately, Free the Tone has those things. A few months ago, I discovered the new chorus pedal, the Tri-Avatar chorus pedal. Far and away the best chorus pedal I've heard. It is just fantastic. And so I'm going to have Larry use that as his chorus sound. And the delay pedal, the flight time, is also world-class, incredible delay pedal. Looks a little complicated.
Okay.
But I think for Larry, I will set it up so it will be very easy for him to use. And that's all he needs is just that world-class delay sound. And just a mono sound is all he needs for that. So those two items alone will be so helpful. And when I patch them together with all the Free the Tone cables, I know the tone is going to be just great. And so everything should just work like a champ. And I'm really happy about that. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to use those, because I think it will make him sound just like he sounds, and that's what has to happen. He needs to be able to be the artist that he is, and with your help and Free the Tone's help, it's going to happen.
You're most welcome.
Yeah.
My
Great.
pleasure.
Sure.
Okay. I know that you are an outstanding jazz guitarist yourself, and have been teaching at the Robben Ford Traveling Dojo guitar camp.
Yes.
As well as recording your own album.
Yes.
Are you using any Free the Tone product on your album?
Well, as it happens, I'm using the chorus and the delay.
Oh, you did.
Yes, because they sound so great.
Thank you.
And in a studio, of course, there are rack mount units that you can use. But really, those are just, for me, they're better because they're right there with me. I don't have to go to a rack of equipment and make any adjustments. And they sound world class, so I can have them right at my feet and make the adjustments. And it's absolutely wonderful. So I very much appreciate those items, and of course all of the cables. It's fantastic.
Wow,
And
I'm really happy.
yeah, it's great. And you'll hear that when you hear my recording. And as a jazz guitar player, I feel like it's tone again is the most important thing. Getting the best sound you can, to sound like you really sound. And as you know, when you run through many pedals, if you use cables that are just kind of okay, then all of a sudden your sound becomes diminished and you can't sound like you really sound because there's too many things between you and your amplifier or you and your recording.
Yes.
But with the Free the Tone items, it's just like going right into the amp. It's going right into the recording. It's just easy and perfect. It's great that way. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And also for my acoustic sounds, because I do some finger picking. That's very eclectic. I finger pick, but I use jazz chords with extensions and alterations. Most finger pickers use plain chords, it seems like to me.
Yeah.
And most jazz guitarists aren't finger pickers. So this is an area where I think I have a voice. And when we add a little bit of chorus and a little bit of delay, it's just, it makes it that much sweeter.
Oh, nice. I hope that we will be able to see you touring in Japan in support of your album someday soon.
This would be one of the greatest things that could ever happen to me, really. And I hope that happens. I can see it happening, and I intend to do that someday.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing you.
I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And maybe someday I can come to the Free the Tone recording studio, and maybe we can do a recording.
Yeah.
That would be my pleasure.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
I know that you have been to Japan many times. How do you like working for Japanese audiences?
It's such a pleasure. It really is so great. Something that we take for granted when we come to Japan is that people focus and they listen. And they're very polite, of course, because that, I think, is part of your culture. But they're paying attention. They hear every little thing that happens. And they are looking and listening very intensely. And oftentimes in the rest of the world, that is not the case. It seems like maybe people are there just as a casual listener, and they might, visit with their friend, or maybe just get up in the middle of a song and, go to the restroom or something, or get a beer. But here, it's just so focused, and artists really appreciate that. And that's something that is common for Japanese, I think, but not so common for those of us that are artists when we tour the rest of the world. And I think the audience in general gets more out of the performance when that happens. Now, beyond that, they get excited. And they really they know when something great is happening, and they're excited about it. And that's really a beautiful thing, too. Also, at the end, when everyone claps together, this is not common either.
Really?
Yeah. Usually around the rest of the world, everybody's clapping on their own. This person claps different and that person claps different. But in Japan, everyone claps together. It's the coolest thing. It's really great.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really great. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you for the information.
Sure.
Before we write this app, do you have anything else you'd like to talk about?
Just that I'm really grateful to be here. And I'm really grateful to know you and Emmy and her husband Bill and people that are in your company that make my life better. I'm very grateful for that. And I just want to take a moment to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, because it's really meaningful to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Doitashimashita.
Can I ask more about your own album?
Sure. I'm really looking forward to completing this. It's taken a long time. I've been working on this for years. But because I tour so much, I don't have the opportunity to just take a certain block of time and get it finished. Now, that can be good in some ways because it allows me to develop the songs over time. But the challenging part is to get it finished. So I'm really working toward that this year. Now, it's primarily guitar oriented. It's some bebop type sounding jazz. Anywhere from sounding a little like maybe Pat Metheny to a little like Ed Bickert to a little like Joe Pass. Something in a mix of all of that. To the finger picking acoustic sounds, which I don't have an analogy for that. There's not anything that's like that I know of. So maybe that will be my unique voice. Now, beyond that, I've had the great fortune of working with incredible musicians who have all told me that if I need them, they'll come and play. So I'm working on gathering a long list of really great musicians. And whether my record is any good or not, people will want to hear it because those musicians will be on it.
Yeah.
But I think it will be good. So I'm really looking forward to the day that it's done and I can say, here's my recording. Would you listen to this, please? And I'm very happy about it and still working hard to get it completed.
I'm really looking forward to your new album.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, and especially for supporting Free the Tone. We will be looking forward to seeing you again in Japan very soon.
Great.
Thank you so much.
It's an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you very much.